everybody, and welcome to Judges on Fire, the Tech Trailblazers pod/videocast, where we speak with our judges for the awards. I'm Rose Ross. I'm the Chief Trailblazer and not co-founder. I'm the founder of the Tech Trailblazers, and I'm delighted to be joined here by Eleanor Dallaway, who is Editorial Director of Infosecurity Magazine, one of our partners. Hi, Eleanor.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Well, it's lovely for you to join us. Obviously, we've been having an exciting time and we've known each other for a number of years. I was actually just Googling that great tea bar that we had tea at just above the Moscone Centre back at RSA. Probably about, I hate to say it's probably about a decade ago, possibly. Not that we're old enough to have gone to RSA 10 years ago. But so it's been a little while. And obviously things have changed a little bit since then. Mm-hmm. We've all been experiencing a different way of working and living. And weirdly enough, we're actually quite geographically close. But despite that, we haven't actually seen each other for a couple of years. So the offices for Infosecurity Magazine are probably about half an hour away, something like that. And obviously, we haven't had Infosecurity Europe for a little while.
The last time I saw you, Rose, was actually in the airport on the way to San Francisco, which was for RSA just before lockdown, I think. I remember seeing you at Heathrow at the boarding gate, which is where you typically catch up with your InfoSec pals at Heathrow.
Yeah, exactly. You guys were already in the queue for the flight. Yeah. We were there with Dan.
That's right.
It's a strange, small world that we live in, for sure. So it'd be great. I mean, obviously, I hope most people who are in the security space know who you are, but could you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what your role is at Infosecurity Magazine? And then we can chat a little bit about what you're seeing in the market and such like.
Yeah, so I'm currently the Editorial Director at Infosecurity Magazine. I've been with the magazine for my sins since 2006 now, which is insane. So this is my 15th year, and I've really sort of worked my way up the ranks, joined as assistant editor, and worked my way up through editor, publisher, and now to editorial director. So before that, I was a trained journalist, a literature graduate from Loughborough, and somehow landed myself a journalism role in cybersecurity, and thought I'd give it a go. And here I am 15 years later. And like many people, have just kind of organically progressed and fallen in love with an industry that I didn't expect to. So here I am.
Fantastic. Well, as I always like to say, because I was similar really, did marketing and then kind of fell into tech. And I'm a technologist by osmosis, I say. So not a formal training. So, well, it's delighted. It's great to have you involved with the awards as well. And you bring, an abundance of experience with looking at the startup space, which is obviously where we're looking and specialising in cybersecurity. What are you starting to see? I mean, obviously, it's been a very interesting year. There have been lots of changes in the way that businesses work. And the threat landscape has changed somewhat. What kind of things are you seeing that are kind of hot, particularly in the kind of startups that may well be approaching the magazine to say, hey, we're doing something interesting. We'd like to talk to you.
Yeah, I think the amazing thing is we're probably still seeing as many startups post-pandemic as we were pre, which is a really good sign for the sector. What are we seeing? So a lot in the space of artificial intelligence, machine learning. Zero trust is something that is very big at the moment. And I think as the pandemic's obviously forced people to work in a very different way to what they're used to. So the technology shifts that have happened as a result of that have brought about different or perhaps the same security challenges, but just on a bigger scale, because suddenly everyone is dealing with that working from home, the mobility even more than they were before. So I think innovation, luckily, has not been stifled. I do judge the DCMS, the UK government's DCMS innovation competition each spring. And the the entrants this year were just as wonderful and dynamic and innovative as always. So it's nice to see that there hasn't been a slowdown. And yeah, I think AI is probably the exciting place to watch at the moment. But yes, we're seeing people enter the markets in all types of technology areas. So it's great.
Yeah, no, it's exciting times. And I mean, fortunately, as you say, we're not seeing from what the early signs at the beginning that's had much of an impact on the number of cybersecurity startups or startups in general. In fact, I think in some ways they're realizing that the kind of recognition that they'll get from awards like this is actually very beneficial to them. And they do need to stand out from the crowd, because I'm sure there are plenty of people knocking on your door and your colleague's door to say, hey, we've got a story for you. We've got an interesting new product. We've got an interesting, area in the market that maybe you guys haven't seen before. So that's great. So, based on your experience, you've talked about what you do with DCMS Innovation Awards sort of at the beginning of the year. And obviously you've been involved with, I'm sure, seeing a lot of pitches, even if it's from a story perspective, but usually it comes from a technology perspective. What kind of things this year are going to grab your attention? Because this is the first time you'll have done it. And obviously we look at a number of key elements, which I'm sure you're going to be very keen on, are obviously innovation we've spoken about, leadership, agility, and things like diversity. So what kind of things will help people stand out in your mind?
It's a good question. I think, I guess I'm a traditional journalist in the sense that the way a story is told can sometimes captivate me. So I think actually the way a startup is able to articulate what it does, what challenge it solves, why it's needed is actually really important, especially in the awards process. Things that I would look for, I think simplicity actually, and that may come across like a bit of an oxymoron, given the complexity and the depth to cybersecurity technology. But there's a real magic and a maturity in being able to articulate something that's very complicated and intricate, very simply. And I think quite often with this process, you just know when you've stumbled across a diamond. That does really make me sound like a literature student with that kind of romantic, idealistic take on it, finding the one when it comes to cybersecurity innovation. But I certainly think that's true. But being unique and being simple, being able to articulate it simply, I think is what always catches my attention.
Yeah. And I'm thinking of what you're just saying made me think a little bit about the sort of the process of saying Mr. Right or Mr. Right now. And I kind of think that timing is important as well, because sometimes you see some amazing technology, which is maybe just a little bit ahead of the wave or just a bit behind. So somebody's already done it and perhaps has kind of captured the imagination and, the checkbooks of the technology world, so of enterprise departments. So, so that's really important.
Because if there's a genuine need for something, if there's a genuine gap in the market, then quite often you're going to see more than one company or more than one person identify that gap in the market and rush to fill it. So when you see quite a few people in a similar area, I guess what that does is just make you realize that there really is that gap in the market that needs to be filled. So it's like you say, the timing is it needs to be so spot on, because if you're too late, someone else will have done it. And if you're too early, people won't really truly understand the need for that. So it's a tightrope for sure.
Yeah, and we've certainly seen that with entrants where people have maybe not made a short list, got in a short list, and then maybe the next year they won, because I don't think the technology obviously will have developed over that period of time, but maybe it also came then at a good time. And I think certainly in cybersecurity, are you starting to see startups pivoting because of what's happened around remote working and digital transformation acceleration?
Do you mean pivoting in terms of sort of evolving their offering?
Yeah.
Their offering?
Yeah.
I'm trying to identify any examples of that. Not that I can think of off the top of my head or that I'm aware of. But I would be surprised if that wasn't happening. But I'm not sure that is necessarily specific or unique to a pandemic. I think as time evolves and trends change and needs and challenges and businesses need different things, I think that probably happens anyway. Does it happen as the pandemic a bit of a catalyst for that? Perhaps, but no, I can't think of any examples.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting. I think it's probably accelerated some and made some more pertinent, more topical, more relevant for enterprises, as they've moved through this and adapted to that. So we've talked about what your kind of things you're looking for simplicity. You want to see, a need that's addressed and it made in a clear and concise way. Anything else that you'll be looking for? Because we do have other categories, because we've obviously talked about the cybersecurity, the security trailblazers, but, we were talking before we came onto the call officially that, you've been a huge ambassador for diversity and for women in cybersecurity. And we do have the female trailblazer, and we've also got the diversity trailblazer. So that's certainly something we'd like to see you get involved in having a look at. And, what have you seen around the ecosystem sort of promoting sort of equality, the whole DEI situation?
Yeah, I think so. You two questions there. So the first one, what else am I looking for? I think you said. I think ultimately the businesses or the trailblazers, and to use your tech, that come forward and have the customer always completely at the heart of what they do is always something we're looking for. I think it's really easy to lose sight of that customer and get carried away in the sort of fancy, flashy boxes and technology, but actually it's the people that know what they're selling. They know it inside out. They know that at heart, and they know who it is they're trying to help. I think that is what we're looking for. In terms of the diversity piece, that's absolutely those categories. If we were asked to have like a specialism or a special category at the Trailblazers that we'd be particularly, passionate about, that would definitely be mine. Diversity and inclusion, as you say, it has rocketed quite rightly up the agenda in the cybersecurity industry. In terms of getting the timing right, if anything, it's too late. It's something we've needed for a long time. And are we at the place yet where we're doing enough in that space? Probably not, but we're definitely making huge movements towards that. So like you say, it's something that I am passionate about. I think I've taken the role on my team of being the sort of the people person. So I try and shy away from all the articles about technology now, because I just want to spend all my time interviewing people, like getting to know the professionals at the heart of this industry. And I've focused a lot on diversity as part of that. So that's definitely my sweet spot. And I'm really looking forward to that category in particular. And I know that there's the Chief Experience Officer category as well, the CXO categories. I think you mentioned we're broken down by man and woman. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think definitely I've got a soft spot for the female category, of course. I've been a great ambassador of women in tech, and we run our own women in tech events. It's something I've written about, not just for Infosecurity Magazine, but white papers for the government and things. So I'm really passionate about it. I really sort of sit on the fence when it comes to the separating of the awards. But it is what it is. And I'm looking forward to seeing what talent comes forward in both of those categories.
Yeah, no, it's always a challenge, really, because I want to do the same. I wanted to, spotlight female trailblazers. But then from an equal standpoint, we needed to have male trailblazers as well. So that's the way that works. So the diversity, you told us about what you're doing with the UK government, and obviously stuff around the world. People are seeing that as basically making sure that tech is open to everyone, and that people who have a talent or an interest and have something to bring, that they seriously consider entering the profession. So that's amazing. So are you seeing a lot of people focusing in cybersecurity skills, for example? Are you seeing a lot of accelerators? Are you seeing a lot of government initiatives, both in the UK and I guess globally speaking?
Yeah, that absolutely is. I mean, if you take a look at the UK Cyber Council, which is sort of launched officially this year alongside the NCSC, and there's a lot happening about the professionalization of the industry, and the council is on a mission to be able to do that. I think sort of continued education, investment in recruitment, investment in upskilling, and it's all good. It's all really good signs. We talk about this enormous skills gap that we have. I don't know. I think sometimes I think we do ourselves a disservice as an industry with the way we market our profession. And I think sometimes it's less about whether or not our industry has those vacancies, actually making us advertising ourselves better so that people want to get into the industry. And I think that's something I found in all the work I've done around increasing, closing the gender gap. We need to make the infosecurity or cybersecurity profession an industry that people want to join. And actually, that's something that we kind of need to really embrace and work on before we even think about anything else. So there's a huge amount of work being done, and government agencies. Yes, it's all happening, and it's all really positive.
Yeah, I had a great conversation with a young lad who was in the sixth form who had done a competition with Young Enterprise and was going forward with his team to Europe to represent the UK. And he said a great thing, and I'm curious about what you think. So you've got, little people, and I have a slightly less little person. But he said basically that he didn't see a career in technology as attainable, just because of the way he perceived people like Tesla, Elon Musk, and the people who are seen as being the representatives of the tech industry in the sort of ongoing media, really. So, I mean, are you seeing that that's something that's starting to change as well? And is that part of the equality opportunity that we have right now?
Yeah, I think there has been evolution in the curriculum. So definitely young people are taught technology and ICT skills at a much younger age than we ever were. So there's huge progress in that. In terms of a tech career being attainable, I've actually never thought of it like that. So I always think that a tech career seems very attainable, but a more niche cybersecurity career seems a little bit more, there's not as many paths, like well-trodden paths into that industry. And it doesn't help when people like me and all the people I interview say, well, we just kind of fell into this industry by accident. And it's a cliche, but it's a cliche that's so true for so many. And serendipity has brought so many people into this industry that I do believe it's our responsibility to start making these paths and advertising them. So I'm surprised about people thinking that generally a tech career is unattainable. I definitely think children grow up today thinking, oh, it's profitable, it's a well-paid career. It's actually a lot, I think it's seen as cooler now than it used to be.
That's certainly true with the iPhone and other technology that they're all, hanging on to.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a combination of factors, which will mean that a lot of the younger generation will certainly sort of move into. But also you have to look at the nature of the work as the world's evolved. There are more tech jobs now than there used to be. You look at, artificial intelligence, and you look at robots in shops and all sorts of things. And actually, we need more people doing the programming, the computers to do the job. So it's natural, isn't it, that that's the way the world's going.
Certainly a burgeoning industry. And I think that's very true of particularly people who are now at a senior, sort of more advanced part of their career. But nearly, I would say almost all the ones that I know as well have come from a different, they haven't gone specifically into cybersecurity. They've come into tech, and then they've kind of shuffled into it, been drawn into it, maybe not shuffled into it, been drawn into it. But then I'm sure it goes the other way as well. I'm sure people who go into cybersecurity will end up having a slightly different role as their they follow their passions, or where they really start to see where they can contribute and want to contribute within an enterprise or within, that ecosystem. So good stuff. So we're looking forward to getting things done. You are going to be on hopefully a very, very enjoyable and relaxed break very soon. So thank you so much for joining us, Eleanor, before you head off. Although hopefully by the time you're live, you'll be, not quite back again.
I don't even want to start thinking about coming back.
Yeah, no, we won't talk about that. We'll forget about that. You're about to go. And hopefully we'll get to do tea either near the offices or in San Francisco again soon.
Oh, I hope so. Do you know, I really miss the travel. I miss going to these places, these amazing places that we have the opportunities to do, but I miss connecting with an industry face to face. It just feels, as a journalist, you want to get those stories and you want to get to know people so that you can tell their story as best you can. And it's so hard to do that, behind a computer screen. So I miss that interaction desperately. And I can't wait to get back to business events and interviews soon. So yeah, schedule me in for that tea or
Sounds good to me. That sounds good to me. Well, thank you, Eleanor. It's Eleanor Dallaway, who's the Editorial Director at Infosecurity Magazine, who we're delighted is joining us this year as one of our judges. My name is Rose Ross, and I'm the founder and chief trailblazer at the Trailblazers, and you have been joining us for a Judges on Fire video podcast. Thank you very much.